Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be talking about my collection of pivot sliders, or at least my best attempt to combine everything I have that can be generally categorized as a pivot slider. So, we're going to be looking at these, talking about them generally. It won't be like a normal review. I'm not going to take them apart. We're not going to weigh anything or measure it or compare it. I can give you some pros and cons, give you some idea of whether something might be avoidable or something that you should really look out for. So yeah, please stick around and we will try to have some fun with this. It may run a little longer than 30 minutes. I don't know. But I just thought this would be fun to do. I think the last time I had 3 pivot sliders in my collection, and that was maybe close to 2 years ago. Now we have 25 to talk about. So again, please join me. Okay, well, right off the bat, these guys are kind of freaking me out because they're kind of looking at me and smiling at me. I don't know if you see that, but I do, and I want to get rid of that right away. These are known as the Owl slider. These are both original from Gal Studio. One is in polycarbonate, injection molded polycarbonate, and one is in stainless steel. And the stainless steel one I had first, and paid a pretty high price for this when it was originally coming out. I want to say it close to $139, which is almost ridiculous to me now. I liked it a lot in the beginning, but things have advanced so far now that I just don't have that much interest in it. It is not something that it's in the collection. I admire it. I play with it occasionally, but I don't get it out and carry it. And the plastic version, of course, much cheaper. That was only about, under $20. I think you can get them now. Comes with different balls that actually can be exchanged. You can take this apart and put the different balls in. They don't spin, although they feel like they do. It pretty much operates the same as this one does. It's a little bit lighter. I mean, it's so light that it's difficult to hold on to compared to the stainless one. So that is the story of the Owl slider from Gal Studio. Now we can get rid of these 4, I think, at the same time. Now, this was difficult to say. Are these pivot sliders? Well, they are in a sense because they have a pivot point. But the pivot point is back here somewhere in space when this thing is rotating. So you take the circle here and try to imagine where the center of that circle is, and that's where your pivot point would be. But I consider things more like this, and even these, and this one to be sort of a fan style, because they fan out. Usually the internals involve arcs of tracks for the balls to travel into, or arcs for the mechanicals to follow, arc tracks. So what came first, I believe, were this one, which was, these are all just called the magnetic cashew and the mechanical cashew. So these are the 2 magnetic cashews. Version 1 and version 2 is what I call them. Version 1 barely makes any noise at all. It only has 2 clicks in either direction. This would be good for meetings. It'd be good if you're only looking for that sensation. But if you're looking for noise and feedback, there's not a lot to be had there. So that's the story with that one. Polycarbonate. I would have gotten this in red, but at the time I wasn't really trying to collect them all in the same color. This one, that's the mechanical, sorry. This is the other magnetic cashew nut. 3 levels, made it a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit louder, a little more distinct clicks. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks in either direction. It's very light. It has a little keychain attachment there that I wouldn't use probably, or advise using. But it's an interesting piece, and again, it wasn't very expensive. This is still about $30, which is crazy. These, I think, can be found for around 20 or less. Same thing with that, 15 maybe. Now, an original Owl would cost, a real one would cost close to $80, $90, $100. But after these, we had the mechanical cashews, which I love. And this is a great one, 6 clicks in either direction. It's a little bit better when it's warmed up right now. It's a little cool. It's been a cool day here. But yeah, just love this one to death. And after this, they surprised us with a polycarbonate version. Well, it's polycarbonate on the outside and POM on the inside. And the way this one works is it uses magnetics to hold the main pieces in their orientation. But now that it's taken apart, this arc piece that I'm moving around can slide the whole way out, and that's where the ball and springs are hidden, right underneath here where I'm pointing. So when you do have to take it apart, you have to keep that in mind. But if you do need to take it apart, watch my video on it. I'm not going to get into those details now, but it's a very interesting construction, easy to tune, so you don't need instruments like screwdrivers or even really tweezers. Well, they help sometimes, although they help. You don't need tools to get in this to fine-tune it. And when I say fine-tune it, I mean, adjust the ball and the spring, maybe add more or less. I think there's room in here for 3. You can adjust it the way you want it. This one, again, I think there was room for 2 or 3 balls and springs in it as well. Now this stainless steel version, of course it's machined stainless steel. It's going to be a little more expensive than the plastic ones. And I'm pretty sure that this ran, well, it was over 100. I won't guess any further than that, but you know what? It might not have been. I want to say that maybe it might be under 75. I want to say I paid around 60 something for this. Hard to say. Hard to say. I'm doing this off the top of my head, kind of winging it. So that's my guess. Great piece. Okay, they did have it in different materials as well. It'll be a little bit more expensive. So that's the story with that one. One that came to me early on, I bought from INS Works, and it's called the Top Speed. At least I've seen it called the Top Speed. It says 299 kilometers per hour, let's race. And then there's a PC board looking etching on the back. It's copper. The insert is copper. And that says YEZ EDC. It doesn't say EDC, but it is, the company is YEZ EDC. And this is a 3-level magnetic slider. And I won't go into too much detail with that here either, but once it's out in its fullest position, you can rotate this part. So that makes it a pivot slider. And I'm a little bit out of practice at holding this. You'll have to forgive me. If you don't use these often enough, you kind of lose your touch. Although it doesn't take long to get your touch back. But yeah, this one a little expensive. You can still find it. Don't know if it's worth it to me or not. I think you would have to be really attracted to the way it looks, or maybe the shape. But again, you might consult my original video on that one. Another early one, it might be one of the earliest, and I don't know if I would have considered this a pivot slider up until this point, but it's called the triquetra. It's by Compoform. It's one of the original brass pieces. It's been pre-treated with the blackening agent for brass, which I think was a huge mistake. After I bought this, ordered it brand new, somebody else had bought one and requested not to have that done, so they got a bare brass one, and it looked so much better than this one did, and I bet it worked a lot better than this one did. And I'm not trying to poop on Compoform. They do a lot of nice stuff, but this is one of the most expensive pieces that I've had up to this date, and it's not really holding up very well. I don't know, I haven't used it a lot. Initially I was excited by it, but it just, the gumminess of all the blackening that's on here kind of doesn't make it run very smooth. And then it didn't take long before you'll see here, maybe in the reflection, that these two magnets have totally lost their protective nickel skin on top, and they're just slowly falling apart. And I've put Teflon over these two magnets so that it glides over these broken magnets a little bit better. And I've never wanted to pursue fixing it any better than that, really. But it was a great idea. I was really happy with it at the time. It would take a lot more money to fix it now than I think it's worth. It's more of just a piece that I keep and collect, and I still enjoy from time to time, but not like I did in the beginning. And I would never buy one of these again, especially in this condition. If it was totally brass with no coating on it, then maybe. But again, it's magnetic, and I've really moved on to a lot of mechanical pieces these days. Another early piece is this tiny little stamp, the ACEDC stamp. It is not much bigger than a real stamp. And by sheer luck, I bought mine used, and this is the only piece of zirconium that I have in my collection. I can understand now why people like zirconium, but I usually don't go after it because it's usually a higher price point. And other than that, it's just not that important to me. Stainless steel has always been my standby. It's usually the least expensive, and you can always rely on it being a rugged material. Like when you drop this on the concrete, yes, it's going to get nicked up, but is it going to break? Probably not. I don't know about other materials, but I do like this one a lot. If you have the balls in place on the inside, I'm not going to take it apart again, but right now there's no balls. Well, I did take it apart. When there are no balls inside of it, it operates as a pivot slider. However, when you put the balls in there, it only moves back and forth like that in only one direction. So it's two clicks forward, 2 clicks back, which by itself is pretty nice. It's got a tiny little lanyard hole. Where's that at? Let me flip this around. Here it is. Tiny, tiny, tiny little lanyard hole there. I don't see how you would use that or why you would put it around your neck or anything, but it's there. This plate comes off. You can get different decorative plates for it. Also, worthy of note is that there's a mechanical version of this now, but I don't care for it. I've looked at it. It's priced about the same as this. I mean, the pricing's fair, I think, all right, but I don't want to put the money into it because it's such a short travel distance. I think you only still get, like with this one only travels in one direction and you get 2 clicks. I think the mechanical one travels in 2 directions, but you only get like 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 clicks at the most. And that's not very much on a small piece like this. I don't have one out here, but it's a lot like a top C, you might say. A top B slider from Metal Toys DZ, where you only get like 1.5 clicks in each direction. I kind of find that frustrating, but other than that, very nice piece. I'd love to know what the cartoon dude on here is about, and of course, the dudes in China don't want to say a word about it, so I guess I'm not cool enough to know the answers. Here's one of the ones that came along next. I guess I'm kind of end up doing these in sort of a chronological order, at least that's what it's turning into. But I believe it's the Battle Shield by Chenyu, and this has been always a great favorite of mine. It also uses balls. You can put 2 balls on this side, 2 balls on this side. That'll force this to travel only back and forth with no twisting at all. But if you want it to twist, you take those out, and you've got a really nice pivot slider that works really, really well either direction. Now, upside down, none of these really work the way you would expect them to. I've seen other people say, oh, I use it upside down like this or such and such. Okay, that's definitely possible. But honestly, I think these were intended to be used like this side up. In fact, there's a little insignia on this side and not on this side. And you'll find that with a lot of these pieces where it's kind of obvious where they expect you to consider one part of the side up. But again, it's up to your individual preferences. These were great. The prices, I think, have come down. But I'd be a little weary about the really low-priced ones, because then you're getting into possible copy or clone territory. I got mine quite a while ago, and I think I paid under $100 for it. I might have been around the $80, $75 mark, something like that. So yeah, an excellent piece. In fact, this is one of the pieces at one time I made the proclamation that if I could only have one spinner, or one slider, I'd pick this one. But you know, I think I've said that about a few of these guys. Anything else out here that I see off the top of my head? I might have said it about this at one time, but I try not to do that anymore because it's just when you get one of these new and you're happy with it, it's hard to contain your excitement. Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. Alright, let's get these two guys out of the way. I've never been too fond of these. My first initial videos on at least this one was pretty rough. In fact, I got rid of that video and did a fresh video, trying not to be so hypercritical about it because I don't think the criticism was deserved. But if a lot of people love the Top D, these are both Top D. This one's stainless steel, this one's PEEK material. They both do the same thing. This one does a little bit more. This is typically how you use this one. Out and down. You can go back and forth a little bit, but once it's turned sideways, it doesn't go up and down. It's locked in that position. It doesn't do anything really special. Now, in comparison, this one has sort of a zipper effect, we've tended to call it. It has an extra feature. This one does not do that. So you've got this feature. Once you get used to using that, then you can add a little bit of an interesting bit to your flow pattern. Although this being light and being peak, it's a little hard for me to use. And I had some negative feelings about this, so watch my video on that if you so dare. But again, there are a lot of fans of Top Metal Toys products, period. So these are the deep fried dough sticks in stainless steel and peak. I think if I had to think about what came around the same time as that last piece did, I'd say it'd probably be this one. This is the YEDC/42 Cosmo collaboration called the Pynos slider. And it is made really, really well. These are all laser etchings, and it's gotten a little scratched up over the time period that I've had it, but it's holding up perfectly well. Again, this one you can put in balls, 4mm balls, I believe, to get it apart. You go to the middle. This one's a little different. It's easy to do. I can show you a little easier than some of these. But you put one ball in each one of these tracks, put this back together again, and that forces it to only travel back and forth, straight back and forth with no rotating at all. But this is a favorite. This is pretty common. A lot of people have this. There's now a three-layer version of this, but I don't think it pivots, and it's some kind of anniversary edition. So this was around 100, 110, I believe, at the time. Well worth it. If you have the tools, I should have shown that when I had it apart, you can easily unscrew this pivot and use it without the pivot at all, and then it becomes a free-floating slider. However, because of the weight of the body and the strength of the magnets not being quite strong enough, it's a little sloppy to use it without the pin. To try to use this as a free-floating slider, for instance, like a wrapped slider or a Magnus slider, this is capable, but it's hard because both sides are a little heavy and the magnets are a little weak for that. But you can do it if you want to. So let's figure out which one's next. Okay, again, I think maybe about the same time period, Gal Studios came out with initially something that looks just like this called the rice ball. And it spins around and around, and I'm really not that interested in it. I happen to have one, but it was never that exciting to me. Then they came out with this, which was dubbed the Rice Ball V2 or the Rice Ball Rocker. And it operates with magnets and balls. And if ever there was an underdog, one that I never hear people talk about or show off, it would be this one. They're still out there. Even if you find them used, as I've said before in AliExpress, just talk with the seller, get some extra pictures, question them, and you'll be in good shape. And you'll still be able to return it probably if something's wrong. But I think you can still find some of these new, and they were available in a few different materials. Just an awesome, awesome, underrated magnetic clicker with some nice, depending on how you hold it, you can get some nice snaps out of it. This is nothing, to me, nothing like a coin. Coins have never given me the kind of click satisfaction, at least the magnetic ones. Magnetic coins have never given me the kind of satisfaction that I get out of something like this. Alrighty. I think maybe this would be the Sky Tower by Tego Design, Tego EDC. Totally magnetic, pretty well made, not sloppy at all. If you take it apart, there's a place here for 4 tritium vials, or glow-in-the-dark vials, which alternatively you can use. What I've had in here is copper wire, just ordinary copper wire cut to length. It has to be the right diameter to fit and stay in there, but these don't require any glue. That's the beauty of it. If you have some trit vials and you want to put them in there, you just take this apart, drop them in both sides, and you have a glow-in-the-dark slider. So I've had some fun with that. Like I said, I put in my copper ones, my copper pieces for a little while, which is it's just copper wire that was cut to the right length. This one comes up and rotates 90 degrees and has a really good feel to it. Oops, I just popped it apart by accident. Not very difficult to figure out. There's sort of a keyhole here, and this part right here has to drop into that. There we go. But yeah, the other interesting feature about this is that the same company made some tiny little free-floating sliders that you can drop in here. You can drop 1/2 on this side and 1/2 on that side, and this thing would close up and you could store it in there. So you'd kind of be carrying around two different sliders with you at once. However, when both pieces are in there, it won't operate. You can only spin it back and forth and everything because the other slider's taking up this empty space here on the inside. But then you can also take those apart and sort of use that little spinner or the slider piece by itself, like I'm doing with the pivot piece. And you can slide it back and forth. So it's just an interesting modular aspect of this design. Those little sliders, when you put them together, what you get is a one free-floating slider. I'll put a picture up here just to clarify. But it is tiny. It is as tiny as your thumb, and it's as expensive as, well, over $100 usually. I just couldn't see doing it, and I'm not interested in free-floating sliders very much at all. You'll find that out about me pretty quickly. I had a few in the beginning, but I'm just not terribly turned on by free-floating sliders. Now here's 2 we can sort of knock out at one time. These are both from Taiva, I believe. Actually, this one came from somewhere else. I think I had to get that somewhere else. But Taiva was involved with selling these at one point in time. And that's a store on AliExpress that I'm talking about. So in my best estimation, I believe this came first and that this came second. That's just the order of how they appeared on AliExpress. But what you've got is a 3-level slider, titanium. This one does actually say Taiva EDC, and it moves so many clicks back and forth. It's a little hard to move just the top piece by itself, and it's a little bit odd that there's a lanyard attachment point here in the middle because this pivots. But the way I use this is I use the mechanical slide either by itself, or I slide it out to there and then use the mechanical side to slide it out 2 more clicks and then draw the whole thing back. And that's one of the simplest things you can do with it, aside from just using the mechanical part by itself, to simply slide it out the whole way and bring it back. Well, that action right there is really the exact same thing that a Mackie CP2 does. Of course, it's a totally different shape and a much greater improvement. This also comes with a series of small balls. I think they're actually 2mm balls that fit down in here in these two tracks. And what those do is when you put them in there and close everything up, that prevents this from rotating at all. So if you want something, like I said, that just goes back and forth, doesn't do any rotating, you can put those balls in and you're good to go. Otherwise, this is what makes it a pivoting slider. This one's a little bit hard for me to grip without practice. What I typically do is slide it out the whole way and then turn this part. And then I bring the middle part back in and line everything back up. Do that a few times for you here. However, this one has always been a little bit hard to hold and do that with because the sides are a little sloped and soft and everything. There's not a good square edge on it. This came out a little bit later, and it's the exact same thing. In fact, the parts are interchangeable. They fit. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm pretty sure these are Taiva as well, although it's not marked. I think it's marked. Let's check the other side here. Yes, it is. What was I thinking? Taiva EDC, of course. But I do think I had to get this somewhere else because Taiva, the website, Taiva EDC store on AliExpress, happened to be out of them or whatever. But basically it's the same thing. The only difference are the outer pieces, these two outer pieces. And you'll see when I hold these up against each other, this one is much more squared off. And because of that, it becomes an easier piece to use, I think. It becomes a lot easier for me to twist it like that. The thing is, when you're twisting it like this, it becomes a matter of somehow controlling the bottom piece down here with something, and that ends up being basically a few fingers on your right hand, holding that steady while you give it a spin, right here. And the fact that this is thicker and more square just seems to work a lot better. So let's move on to the next one. Well, I think the next ones that might have shown up would have been, I believe, this mechanical version first. We're going to talk about these two, both made by the same company, TK EDC. No, not TK EDC, PD EDC. Now, that's not marked on here anywhere, but that's what I remember from the advertising. So this is the mechanical version. My lanyard clips work perfectly with this. This is one of my top pieces. If you ever ask me, I'll say this is one of my top pieces. Top 5 at least. Great piece. It has some magnetic components which are used simply to hold these plates on. There is no real purpose haptically for the magnets. So these are, I consider, full mechanical pivot sliders. And I'm very happy with this one. I always liked it. One of the features this one has is the rotating mechanism in here has some different setting locations for the springs and balls, where you can either have it be, say, I can't remember how many clicks it is all the way around. Let's say it's 16. So one setting gives you 16 clicks the whole way around, and the other setting doubles that and gives you 32 clicks all the way around. I've only seen that done on one other thing, which is and I mean, the numbers may not match, but the idea of that particular design feature, the only place I've seen that before is on the ACEDC Noise, also known as ACEDC Milk Cap. So very cool, I think, mechanically. And I just love the minimalistic look on this, and the Lollipop. So that's what it's called, the Lollipop. This one is called the Lucky Clover, or the 4-leaf clover, I can't remember. When I bought it, it was rushed to me because I think they claimed they had them, didn't have them, decided to make one at the last minute and ship it to me before the epoxy had even had a chance to dry. So this little area down here where there's a clover, a 4-leaf clover that was filled in with some epoxy, mixed with, you know, glitter to try and pretty it up and everything. And it was gummy, and it had, the whole thing was practically glued shut, so I had to clean all that out. And then in my haste, I scratched this up pretty bad. I could have done a better job on that. And down the road, I could always polish those scratches out. They're not very deep. But this is the magnetic version of this. So I imagine this came first, and this probably came second. But as far as magnetic ones go, that's fantastic. You know, I'm just as happy with that as I am with the mechanical one. Funny thing again with this one, I think, as I said, it was a last minute thing. This should not look like this on this model. This should match the back, with the exception of this little part here. This is where they've changed the design for the lanyard hole. The front is supposed to look the same as the back on this one. But I'm happy with what I got. Got a fair price on it. It was from a shady character, but they came through for me, and in the end, I honestly like it better. I think they both match a lot better that way, so I don't care. You've got to pick your battles, and that one was not worth it. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of this little broadcast here tonight. This is the Kaios, I pronounce it Kaios, K-A-I-S, Kaios Lucky Ballot. I have a few other magnetic sliders from the same company that are pretty interesting. But this one is mechanical, a mechanical fan style, 3 levels. And depending on how you have it set up, you can get, I believe, 8, wait. 6. I think it's 12 clicks this way, 12 clicks the opposite way. And that's between 3 different levels. The only problem with this one is, I talked about it in my reviews, that it's awfully heavy. It's a chunky beast is what it is. And they only have it available in stainless steel. They've got it in, interestingly, maybe 5 or 6 different versions. The version one of my friends got that I wish I had got has a textured surface here where you can see the machining lines on it. That would help you get a better grip on it. And I think that would make a lot of big difference. But my video, I think, explains this best. There's a lot of stuff in here that you don't need, I don't think, unless you're a fan of really chaotic, crunchy, clustery stuff, which a few people are. I happen to know a fellow reviewer that really likes that sort of thing. But me, I like to be able to count the clicks out and have a little bit of rhythm. So that is the story on that one. Not too much after that one, I decided to go ahead and check out this by DJG. I wasn't going to, because the fan style, what I'm calling the fan style, where you have arcs out here performing the limiting mechanism and performing the guidance and everything, I just feel it's best described as a fan, because that's what they started out as, and of course this one is a perfect example. Now, I may or may not have the images ready. Wanwu has a version of this that came out a long time ago, magnetic. Maybe I'll put a picture up here. And there was another company, and I can't think of who it was, so I will add that too, but they also had a magnetic version of something like this. I had trouble with this. It took me about 2 hours to figure out the best way to hold it, the best way to use it, and it ended up going from something I was really not sure about to one of my favorites. Not clear at the top just yet, but it's so well made and works so well. DJG has really been impressing me. Their mechanical slider is something else. You can watch that video too. Not too long ago I did that. Very impressive. They also have a magnetic slider that has a built-in tuning fork, but I've already sort of proclaimed a few months ago there that I hate the tuning fork sliders. I mean, I have one that's very mild. It's more of a vibration slider. It doesn't make noise as much as it has a feeling of a vibration, but I'm not a fan of sliders that make too much noise. especially ones that give a loud ding every time there's a click. So I have no idea why that is a popular thing, but hopefully it'll die off soon. So yeah, this is the fan. It's only called the fan slider by DJG. It is available in stainless steel, black, or silver. Very happy with that one. Works best with my lanyard, any lanyard. However, I like to use my little clip lanyard. It's just the right size. All right, let's just finish this up by combining all three of these. I did recently review all three of these and compared all three of these at the same time. One of my initial loves in pivot sliders would be the Guardian by Chenyu. Stainless steel, real nice weight to it, nice swing to it. I've often said that I would use it by spinning it as far as I could comfortably and then using this finger to sort of finish off the slide. So if you see me doing that repetitively, that kind of helps me finish the rotation. With practice you can get it a little bit better, but that was an issue I had with this one. Holding on to it was kind of an issue because there's not a lot of thickness and a lot of square edges around here. So when I saw this one become available, I thought, well, that's interesting, and it looks different enough. There's two tracks for this one track for this one. Different shape, obviously. This one has much more squared off edges, more surface area, I feel, to be able to grip the base part while you're spinning it. It also has a very different feature to it where there's magnets located in each of these corners. Here, 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 here. And again, in my main video, you'll hear me talk about that one. I'm not quite sure what purpose those serves. They don't really have a haptic purpose. I think they're more there to hold this thing together when it's in its closed position, because when it's away from its closed position, you start to see how terribly sloppy this one is. So the more I learned about this one, the more I took it apart, the types of fasteners they used, the way it was made, the fact that it had tape on it to begin with. Never a good sign when you buy an expensive slider, that there's tape already on it. It's just a little too sloppy for me. It might be perfect for some people, but I think that you'd be better off going with this one, which is the 9-hand slider, pivot slider, which has also two tracks, but has no magnets located in any of these corners, and honestly functions the best. This one has the best mass to it, and this beats out this. And there's a question in my mind. I ordered this, and then about a week later this shows up on a different site, and I thought, well, that's just great. It looks like a copy. At least the internal part looks like a copy. And what I ended up deciding was, well, let's wait and see what they look like when they get here. And that's when I found out this one had magnets. Actually, I knew it had magnets, but I did not know if this one had magnets in it or not. So that differentiates them. The overall quality differentiates them. I don't know which one came first, and honestly, I don't think there's anyone who could tell me that I would believe. And it really doesn't matter that much. They both came out on the market about the same time. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and just say that these are not copies. They just happen to come out at the same time, and move on from there. And that's what I decided. And decisions like that have to be made whenever you're looking at things like this. So my final decision is this qualifies to be a very unique pivot slider. And it happens to be the best design out of these three. I would highly recommend it. This price and this price are about the same. It does take a little bit of practice. But yeah, very, very happy with that one. Very happy. So I think we can leave everything there and look forward to the next product review. We'll see what's going to happen there. I've been trying to think about maybe some other video topics that would be of interest. I collect mechanically interesting things like pocket knives, flashlights, lighters, spinners, although There's not much to spinners. I like them when I was collecting them, but boy, for me, there's not too much more to talk about than it spins. It's, you know, not too much there to talk about. And I love mechanicals. I love taking things apart and learning how they work. And then in the end, it's a great reward for me knowing that some of you out there found me and you needed to figure out how to fix one of these, and I was able to help you. So that makes me feel good. I will stop here and stop blabbing, and as usual, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments there. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And thanks for watching. Bye.